Hey, this is Fuel Inform here, and today we are going to be talking about how to lose weight, how to keep the weight off, and how to prevent muscle loss. Now, I'll be doing a mixture of some scientific evidence, some tips from articles I've read, and just some personal mistakes I've made. Now, before we get into the articles side of things, I just want to briefly go over my story. So, I was for most of my childhood and early teenage years, I would say a healthy weight. I was definitely your stereotypical skinny fat kid. Maybe I would say about 5'7", 160s. I mean, I was a pretty big kid for being like 12 or 13. Um, but then around the time I was 15, I think I was 5'8", which I'm still at. But my weight went up to about the 180s, and then by March of 2020, right before I turned 16, I was still 15. I hit 188 pounds, which definitely is overweight, and the trajectory was only going up. I turned 16 in April, and then by July, I was in the 190s, I believe. By the end of July, I reached 196 pounds, which is the heaviest I've ever been. I have not been near that since. So obviously, being borderline obese and which with such little muscle mass, my body fat percentage probably was over 30%. So I probably was obese. And obviously at 16, that is not great. I would say I held the weight decently well, but you can definitely tell I don't have a lot of muscle mass. So around July 2020, the whole pandemic was going on, and that's when I decided I wanted to lose weight for the first time. And also got an interesting makeover fashion wise. I'm not going into that, but that's unrelated. So by about October, um, I was down to, I would say, about a healthy weight. I believe by then I was high 150s, maybe 159. And now, obviously, I would just stop there. That's a healthy weight, but since I had such little muscle mass, my body fat was still pretty high, and I was pretty disappointed. So instead of recomping and getting into the gym, because I was not into that at the time, I decided to keep losing weight. And by about December, I hit 139 pounds, and I was a little bit leaner, but pretty much all the muscle I gained naturally before was gone. So I was a rail, and I don't know. I mean, I was so skinny, it's hard to measure body fat, but I would say I was probably around 10% because I felt like crap all the time. And I didn't stop there. I think around here I was 133 pounds, and then I didn't stop, so I went down to about 128, and this is where my body finally gave out. Probably easily sub 10 body fat because I have like no muscle, so I mean there's no meat on my bones there, and this is where my weight loss stopped. And obviously in a little bit I'll be going into all the mistakes I made. I do not recommend this. Bad idea. I mean, it's okay to be lean, but you definitely want more muscle. So, by about March of 2021, I hit 128 and I was done. So, I started eating normal, and obviously, my hunger signals were crazy. So, I rebounded to about 164 pounds at my rebound. And that was pretty much all fat. I mean, no muscle. So, I was the definition of skinny fat. I mean, I looked healthier, but you could definitely just tell I gained some fat. Now it stayed like this for a little bit, but miraculously, I um I kept the rebound to a minimum, and I didn't gain all the weight back. I got to 164, and then slowly over the next few months, my hunger and my hormones went back to a normal level, and I kind of mellowed out around 148 to 155. I believe that was the range I was in. Um, and I think this is around December of 2021, and I was in the 150s there. I look a lot better. I'd say my composition is slightly better. I leaned out a little bit naturally just by not eating as much and not being as hungry. And this is like right before I started hitting the gym. I mean, I was 150, still pretty lean, but still skinny fat, not a lot of muscle at all. And in April of 2022 is when I finally started going to the gym. And at first, I mean, like I said, not necessarily overweight or anything. I mean, still pretty lean, but definitely a skinny fat composition. I mean, I wasn't seeing, you know, abs or definition. Like there was a decent bit of fat on my body still, but I was not overweight. And then around July, I started noticing some progress. And this is before I really started tracking. So most of the weight I gained was just, water and muscle and fat just from starting to eat more and just, lift weights, like as you can tell here. And as I've said in my shorts, biggest mistake I made, I didn't track the whole time. So my gains were very minimal until recently. But by January of 2023, I've definitely I definitely am bigger. I mean, you could kind of tell, but I'm still in the 150s here, so that's a comparison. Like I weigh about the same as the last few pictures, but you could definitely tell I've definitely filled out a little bit. And finally, I decided to start tracking, and I started bulking up. And here, this is about March of 2023. This is not peak bulk, but this is just an example that this is really when I started actually making some gains. I mean, you can tell I gained a little bit of fat, but definitely gained some muscle there. And I got a little bit bigger than this, but just for example, this is really like when the peak of my muscle gains were. And like even now in June, I haven't gained a ton since because I got a little too fat, and I'm just trying to lean out before I bulk up again. But this is me now. I'm almost done with my mini cut. I'm down back into about 155, so I weigh about the exact same I did when I started getting into the gym. And as you can tell, I look a lot leaner. I look definitely more filled out and bigger. My body composition is definitely more favorable. Here are some of the mistakes that I made. My first mistake, I've mentioned this, but I was not tracking calories or macros. I was simply trying to eat as little as possible. And on paper, of course, I was getting results because I was losing. The number on the scale was going down, but I was losing weight extremely fast, around 2 pounds a week or more. And, this was fine for the first 20, 30 pounds because I had a lot of fat. But as I got leaner, this definitely became an issue. The second biggest mistake I made, I was not weight training. So this is pretty straightforward. I was not going to the gym or lifting weights. So there's really no incentive for my muscle to stay on my body. So as I lost weight, the muscle just came off. The third mistake was prioritizing cardio too much. At the time, I thought cardio was the main engine behind my weight loss. I wasn't educated. So I would do like 60 to 100 minutes sometimes on the elliptical, like 3 to 6 days a week. And this was without any regard to my calories. Like I wasn't replacing what I was burning. So obviously this really made my body shed muscle mass even quicker. The fourth biggest mistake I made, not knowing when to stop. So as I've said, when I did hit that healthy weight, I could have just recomped, gotten to the gym. I mean, at the time I was ignorant, but I decided to continue, which was a big mistake. And the last mistake I made was ignoring my body's signals. So this goes hand in hand with the last point, but when I really was getting into that really low body fat and muscle territory, like obviously my hunger signals are pretty crazy and I was lethargic as hell, but I ignored it as long as I could until eventually I couldn't. So that was my story with this. Let's get into the research side of things now. I have the articles pulled up here. I'm just going to briefly go over them with you, and I'll also go into some of the takeaways I took from going over them myself. Um, and if you want the links for these articles, they'll all be in the description, and I'll have my sources down there too. But let's briefly go over this one. This article is about maintenance of lost weight and long-term management of obesity, and I went through it And pretty much the takeaways I took, I'll show you. Obesity interventions typically result in early rapid weight loss and then a weight plateau and regain. You're going to want to keep your weight loss, um, in under control. And the study here, study of 29 weight loss studies, and in 5 years, nearly 80% gained all the weight back. Most people will gain the weight back. Now, there are multiple reasons on why weight loss is challenging. The reasons being, over processed foods and just a lack of knowledge on nutrition in general. I mean, it gets into it here. Let's say you prioritized whole foods and you made better decisions, such as 8 ounces of just a plain chicken breast. I mean, you could season it and shit, but for example, 8 ounces of a chicken breast compared to 8 ounces of fried chicken, there would be a great difference in the calories and nutrition. Let's get into the next article. Different article. I believe it's by a different person, and um, you could read the whole thing if you want. But the takeaways I took from it that I want to share with you is pretty interesting. This article went just it was just about aerobic activity and cardio. So I'm assuming they just had them, not diet and just do a lot of cardio, and it showed that they did lose weight. I don't know if it gets into if they kept the weight off, and these are some intense sessions here. But I wanted to just show that there is evidence that cardio, like, you can lose weight on cardio. I don't want to say you can't. It's really just about a mixture. That's the takeaway I got from this, is that, obviously you're gonna want to diet in whole foods. There's evidence for that, but there's also evidence that cardio does help, and you can lose weight purely off of cardio. I mean, it's all about energy out versus energy in. But as you can tell, I mean, how long is the study for? 10 months, and their percentage only went up down by that much. It's possible, but this shows, that's a lot of that's a intense session. So definitely you're gonna want to focus on your food more, and cardio would be supplementary. It would just be a tool. I already knew this, but you're gonna want to also weight train, because it helps you keep your muscle mass, but you may be also able to increase your muscle mass, so your metabolism will stay the same or higher. So as you lose weight and you lose muscle, your metabolism will lower. All right, so here are my 5 tips on how to lose weight. All right, so my first tip is keep your calories as high as they possibly can be while still being in a deficit. And you will slowly lose weight at a healthy rate, and you eventually will plateau. But when you plateau, simply decrease them a little bit more or increase your exercise or cardio, and this will definitely lead for more results in the long term instead of aggressively cutting. I would say lose half a pound to a pound a week. Don't have to go over that. Second tip, become more food conscious and educated. Um, Learn the nutritional content of certain foods. As I've said earlier, instead of, you know, eating smaller portions of higher processed foods, eat large portions of less calorie dense foods such as chicken and broccoli. These lower dense foods will keep you satiated longer while giving you less calories. Third tip, increase your cardio, but keep it simple, such as walking. You know, if you already have a physical job, you maybe don't even have to do this, but if you're sedentary, just start walking. You can walk for 30 to 45 minutes. It burns around 50 calories. The goal is just to use cardio as supplementary. The evidence did say that, those 400 to 600 calorie cardio sessions do promote weight loss, but you're thinking big picture here. Definitely keep it at a minimal. And if you are going to do high intensity training, just 10-minute exercise bike or stair climber. I don't know about if I would recommend running because you might risk some energy or muscle strain. But fourth tip, start some form of resistance training. As we've said, you want to keep your metabolism high, you want to keep your strength up. You do not want your body to lose muscle. This will make you hungrier, this will lower your metabolism, you'll lose strength, your hormones will go out of whack, and you'll feel hungrier, and you'll eventually just give up because it'll be too hard. Final tip, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but focus more on body fat percentage over your actual weight or BMI. This applies more to people that are under 30% or 25%, because if you're 30% body fat, you're going to be obese, and your number on the scale and your BMI are going to show that. But just a simple equation I came up with is, I don't know if the numbers are right, but a 10% body fat person with 80 pounds of muscle might be considered overweight, but a person with 20% body fat and 50 pounds of muscle would be considered a healthy weight according to BMI or the scale. Now, those are my 5 tips, and feel free to comment or ask me for any advice, or give me advice if some of my points are wrong. I'm still a beginner. I'm just telling you what I researched and what I know so far, and I hope to bring my experience up. I mean, I'm still a beginner in the gym in this, and I'm sure you guys have better tips, and I can't wait to hear what you guys will critique me with, or if you guys found this helpful, let me know. All right, this has been Fuel Informed.